environmental movement, and the role of technologies, to understand how all of these activities impact on human beings and human society. And then Mahmoud mentioned human security. When we think of security, we usually think of national security, we think of military operations, we think of defense spending and armaments and so forth. But today, the greatest threats to security in the world are the threats that impact on each and every person on Earth. The number of mortalities, though we see it in the news all the time, the number of mortalities from violence are much lower than they have been historically. But the number of threats and the impact of those threats on millions and millions, hundreds of millions of people are the highest that they have been. Whether it's from food and malnutrition or environment, at the COP29, which you had here very recently in Azerbaijan, the head of the World Health Organization came to say that the number one threat to human health in the world comes from global warming. How much of you understand that global warming is not just an environmental challenge, it's an impact on the whole of human society, just this one environmental change. So we're trying to look at the big picture, and we've come here with great interest in discussing with you, because we think that's really the ultimate responsibility and role of universities in society. And I'll explain why I say that, and you'll hear much more from colleagues of the Academy who represent all the different fields of specialization which we're working in. We live in very extraordinary times with unprecedented opportunities and potentials for development. One of our partner organizations is the Consumer Technology Association. They run the biggest technology event in the world, the Consumer Electronics Show in the United States every year, with 140,000 experts from technology, science, and business looking at the future. And in our partnership with the UN on human security, the Consumer Technology Association has accepted human security as a high priority area for their members, and their members include the largest corporations in the world. We all know them and relate with them in one way or another, because technology can be the savior of humanity in so many ways, whether it's in financial development and for people in the poorest areas, or health, digital health, which has a huge potential for helping, especially in regions like Africa, to reach out to populations. For education in the future, it's something you'll hear more about later. We work with the academies of science, 150 national academies, the Inter-Academy Partnership. And what does human security have to do with their fundamental research? Every field. We run special programs with UNESCO on the role of the natural sciences in contributing to sustainable development and human security as well. So when we talk about security, or when we talk about peace, as Ethan said, when you trace back the real threats to humanity today, they're not all from the wars, they're not all directly or from the military. They're from the issues that create insecurity in the world. And the events that we're seeing today, I'm American, the events we see where even the most advanced democratic countries start to behave as if they're not democracies anymore. When our leaders start to question the very rights that we were born with, lived by, and have tried to promote to other countries in founding the UN and all. The security of people is the foundation for human civilization. And when people are insecure, whether it's because they're afraid that artificial intelligence is going to take away their jobs. One of the recent studies by McKinsey said it's going to eliminate 800 million jobs in AI. That creates a lot of insecure people. Not just the 800 million who may lose their jobs, but the other 800 million who are afraid of losing their jobs sooner or later. So technology has a great response for peace and stability and security in the world. We are partnering with other organizations like the Club of Rome and the European Academy of Science and Art on something we call a peace offensive. And our target is working with universities because the challenges to peace start with the security of human beings at the foundation. Their economic rights, their political rights, the safety of communities, their nutritional access, their health, access to health food, and of course, the environment. So in sum, my purpose in introduction, you'll hear much more from my colleagues in more depth about what we're working on. My purpose was to say we are eager to relate to the universities in this room. We've been partnering with the Black Sea University Network and the Black Sea SDSM Network. We've had conferences with them, and we're looking at programs that can help address the global social challenges. Many in education may think, especially our youth, think that they're being prepared for their careers. But we think they're being prepared for the future world. Because of the complexity of the challenges today, we need to equip our students with an understanding of the world and reality much different and much greater than what we have been doing, what we all went through when we were in education. Because today the world is so complex and interconnected that virtually every discipline has a role and a contribution to make, whether it's in the natural sciences or the social sciences or in engineering and technology or in the humanities, the arts, the communication sciences and so forth. We all have a positive role to play in addressing the challenges and converting them into opportunities.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And this was an amazing summary, putting a very strong emphasis on some of the very important issues today that we have. Of course, climate change is one of the elements that is essential for the future. Of course, we are talking about technology with all impacts of technology on our lives. And the bottom line is, at the end, the security issue. Because it doesn't matter from where, if you feel insecure, that will generate many other aspects. So thank you very much for that. And thank you also for putting this problem, how we could, let's say, prepare the students for the complexity. At the moment when the students, they want their diploma and their graduation much more easy than it was in the past. So the world is getting more and more complex. We need to teach them for this complexity, but they want a diploma to be available much more easy in a very simple way. Now let's move forward. President Emil Constantinescu was already introduced by the rector of this university. Of course, there are many dimensions and many aspects where he worked. One of the very important aspects is, after finalizing his mandate as a president, making amazing things for Romania, putting Romania in a very important geostrategic, let's say, map. President Constantinescu didn't go for retirement and spending life with different cruisers and different, let's say, nice places. He established an institute for advanced studies. And in this institute, he brought brilliant youngsters and started to put them to work. So this is the amazing, let's say, story of President Constantinescu. We would like to thank you for that, and we would like to hear your opinion about the challenges today.
Thank you for your touch point. Esteemed Professor Emil Constantinescu Baku higher oil school, Professor Emil Secretary General Rețelei Universităților Association, Dr. Garry Jacobs, representatives to all the Academy of Art Affairs, and my own friends, Professor Nicolas Luciu, Chair of the CGS of Black Sea. First of all, I'm very happy to be here in this amphitheater together with you, because all my life, in last 60 years, was in university. This amphitheater, and have it's a privilege to train thousands of students, especially in the field of geology and oil exploitation. The theme of our conference, the subject of our conference, is priorities on peace and security in the extended Black Sea region from the Caucasus to the Balkans. Why? Because this was a region where becoming First World War, Second World War, and now in danger for Third World War. In the unprovoked aggression of the Russian Federation against Ukraine that was unleashed in February of 2022 has resulted in the death of hundreds of thousands of young people and the injury of countless more others in the war zone. It has caused immense destruction of material goods brought in the food and energy crisis, spurred an enormous involuntary migration of millions of refugees, and has seen the violation of all human rights, posing an existential threat to everything that humanity has built in terms of the global order that is firmly predicated on the rule of law. The military, political, legal, economic, social, and ideological consequences of this act, each in turn so grave that taken together, the outline of zero hole beyond which mankind is suddenly entering a new phase of its existence, which may well lead it towards irreversible collapse. All the mankind is now being forced to opt not only between peace and war, between truth and lies, but between positioning themselves as either aggressor or victims, forced to make a choice between tyranny and freedom. Is society today morally prepared to respond to the choice presented it in order to establish a global model of conscience? In order to be able to understand the complexity of the threats we currently face, we need to approach them from a historical, ideological, and above all, moral perspective. The task of the academic milieu today in the third decades of the 21st century is made even more difficult because we are witnessing a different political, economic, social, and cultural context, both regionally and globally, than the one on which my own generation hopes rested in the final decade of the 20th century. What could we do in the wartime to ensure a lasting peace? First, we could reinforce the prestige of the academy. We should ask ourselves why society, and especially younger generation, is primarily looking to the content creators active across our various social networks, those so-called influencers, instead of the visionary scholars of years. We need to regain their trust, provide society with edifying concept, a unified vision, and long-term strategies. We need to make better use of the direct relationship between university and the younger formative generations. We need to speak out the truths that are being avoided for fear of political correctness. We must avoid utopian visions as well as dystopian ones. We need to increase the responsibility of the academic milieu instead of accepting at face value of the cliché developed by the bureaucrats of international organizations that are hyper specialized in the most effective communication techniques. In our current situation, all sustainable development projects must be subordinated to the greater objective of achieving a sustainable global peace. Neither the path nor the solution can come from the military-industrial complex or from the populist political leaders. Neither should ending wars be left exclusively to politicians and business. The foundation of intellectual solidarity must be drawn from the quality of our democratic system and from the cultural model that can foster solidarity instead of division. Do we wish for a war driven by political, military, economic interests? Or do we aim for one that champions and advances humanist ideas and values? What we should actually strive for is to preserve and enhance the model of a democratic culture that drove the generation in Eastern Europe that liberated themselves from under communist dictatorship between 1989 and 1990. To readily accept the tremendous social sacrifices carried by the political and economic reforms that were necessary for the true edification of democracy society. Thank you.
Thank you. I am very proud to say that this intellectual is the president of my country. So this is fantastic to have this opportunity to say thank you very much. So now I kindly ask my friend Nikos Theodosiou to say a few words as the professor of the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki, but before that the president of the SDSN Păcii.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Adam, for the introduction. Thank you for organizing all this because you're the soul of this event. I'm really honored to be here amongst this distinguished panel and all these guests and participants. It's really an amazing opportunity to discuss about this very interesting topic of the role of universities in ensuring peace. We are not used to connecting universities with peace, but we need to start doing that because that's a way to go. As Adam mentioned, I'm a professor at the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki. I'm a civil engineer, and I'm actually affiliated with three OPV organizers today. I'm very proud to be a member of the World Academy of Art and Science. My university is for many years a member of the Black Sea Universities Network, and as it was mentioned before, I'm also the chair of the United Nations Sustainable Development Solutions Network,